You are lying still now. The world outside is quiet. Your breath comes slowly, gently, like waves returning to shore. And inside you, beneath the hush of muscle and bone, something luminous moves. A slow, radiant unfolding. This is your brain. It does not click like a machine or whir like a motor. It expands and contracts like breathing, softly, endlessly, shifting in silent response to all that you sense, all that you feel. Your brain is not fixed. It is not finished. It is a garden, alive with possibility. With every passing moment, it listens, not with ears, but with experience. Each touch of a loved one's voice, each flicker of light beneath your eyelids, each thought that lingers like birdsong. Just before dawn, all of it becomes nourishment. And instruction. The neurons, tiny dancers inside your skull. They stretch toward each other like vines craving sunlight. They reach and entwine, forming bridges of meaning. Sometimes they connect, and you suddenly understand. Sometimes they miss, and confusion happens. But even in missing, your garden rearranges itself, waiting for a better time. You weren't born with a brain fully formed. You were born with a brain ready to shape. And even now, even here in this stillness, those shapes are shifting, patiently, silently. You might imagine the brain is something sealed, but it is porous. Deeply porous. It absorbs motion. Emotion. It studies your environment, wearing new paths with every pattern repeated. Just as rain knows how to carve its way into earth, your habits carve learning into your wiring. You notice it when you learn new skill, slowly, awkwardly, and all at once. At first, it feels like fumbling. Then it becomes fluid. What was once effort becomes ease. This is your brain breathing with experience. Each inhale, a new concept. Each exhale, a tiny transformation. Think now of a river. Not smooth, but winding. Meeting stones, changing course, adapting to every curve. That is your neurology. A flow of energy looking for a shape, a current without end. You fall in love, and your brain learns how to feel safer near that person. You lose something beautiful, and it makes space for sorrow. You hear a melody you've never heard before, and still, your neurons dance, forming a memory, a meaning. The garden does not close, even in darkness. It works, even in sleep. It keeps its slow watch, pruning what no longer serves, strengthening what does, storing stories, weaving insight, healing invisible places. You, doing nothing, are still doing everything. And it wasn't always believed to be this way. For a long time, people thought that the adult brain was immovable. Glass, stone, a statue. But we now know it is ocean, not statue. Plastic, not porcelain. We call it neuroplasticity. This gentle adaptability that refuses to stay the same. Like clay rested in warmth, it softens. Like roots sensing water, it shifts. Learning is not an action you take once. It's a condition you live in. The more you learn, the more you can learn. The more you try, the more tryability you have. And when you rest, your mind does not stop. It settles into new form. These changes are not always grand or loud. They are dandelion seeds, subtle. They land quietly, one by one, until a meadow of knowing grows unexpected. They are steady. They are slow. They are sacred. Consider what you learned. Today, a new word, a new sensation, a fresh perspective in something you'd seen 1,000 times before. That information is not just content. It's connection. New paths growing like ivy between the trees of your thoughts. And for every path formed, your brain must carve away old ones too, like gardeners trimming to let light in. You may forget a name, a detail, a destination, but that forgetting is not failure, that it is space-making. It is tenderness. It is the soil resting before another bloom, Dot like the moon's face changing nightly. Your inner landscape shifts its craters and light. Learning leaves shadows, but also reflection. What you take in, you become. What you release. You renew. Now close your eyes and imagine billions of tiny lights flickering across a vast silent field, some connecting, some fading, all dancing in a harmony older than sound. This is not fiction. This is what your brain is doing right now. Spark by spark, thought by thought, that is breathing with all you've lived. You carry ancient cells, billions of them, but none of them remain untouched by what you've seen. Their wiring, their whispers, have been altered by dawn and sorrow, by habit and surprise, by dreams you can't quite remember. You have learned simply by being here. And tomorrow, the garden will have grown just a little more. A new root, a new bloom, a new you, but still, something deeper waits beneath the surface. A question not yet answered. If the brain can change from the world, can it change the world back? By how? It thinks, and so we turn the page softly to where the thoughts first travel, on misty paths through memory and meaning, toward places not yet known. The mist is light tonight, veiling the edges of your thoughts like early morning fog upon a meadow. You lie beneath it, wrapped in stillness, and somewhere inside you, a question softly flickers. Where does a thought go when it arrives? And how does it stay? Your mind is not a vault for storing facts, but more like a secret forest trail woven between trees of memory. The path isn't built all at once. It's walked, over and over again. Each time you think a thought, repeat a phrase, solve a puzzle, hum a melody, you leave behind something gentle but true, a trace, like dewdrops on tall grass. These traces shimmer, barely visible, but enough to find your way home again. You repeat yourself. You rehearse a phone number, visit a memory, feel the same emotion. In doing so, you deepen the trail. What was once a narrow footpath becomes a lane, and then, if walked still more, a broad glowing highway. These are neural pathways, but in your dreamlike inner self, you might call them ley lines, rivers of light beneath the surface of your awareness. They form not just by intention, but also by attention. And attention, like sunlight, feeds what it rests upon. To understand something is to invite it to stay. It may begin like an echo, soft and uncertain, but as you repeat it, speak it, act on it, the echo begins to settle. And root. Repetition is not rote. Is the rhythm through which reality wires itself into you. A dancer learns by dancing. A thinker learns by wandering the same thought with slightly different shoes. Even the brain knows this, for each repetition increases signals between neurons. Picture two fireflies in a summer dusk. The more they blink toward each other, the more likely they are to sync, to flash together. So too, with the cells in your brain, when neurons fire together, they wire together. That is the quiet magic of remembering. When one neuron activates and the next one follows close behind, the brain begins to believe they belong to each other, that it begins to prefer their partnership. Like favorite dance partners in the hush of a ballroom, they begin to step in time, elegantly, effortlessly. This is how knowledge finds a home in you, not through cramming or urgency, but through the patience of return. The act of coming back to something, even gently, tells your brain, this matters. And the brain listens. But not all repetition is helpful. The things you rehearse without noticing, worry, fear, doubt, they too become trails beaten into the quiet earth of your mind, not because they are true, but because they have stayed. Your thoughts are not always invited, but they are always infrastructural, even passing ones. When repeated, create wiring. And so softly, you begin to ask, what do I wish to make into a path? And what would I rather let overgrow? The beauty of neuroplasticity is this: nothing is ever completely final. Even old roads can be covered with time and tenderness, and new ones can be carved with surprising speed when kindness and curiosity light the way. Imagine that. A brain not bound by yesterday, but sculpted by this very moment's noticing. Your habits are not just actions, they are agreements. Quiet promises with your future self. What you return to becomes your refuge. Words you speak often become beliefs. Movements you make daily become motor memory. Just as the sea smooths stone with daily tide, so too your brain reshapes with every return. It is an effort that chisels change, but consistency, not tiny impressions. Gentle pressures, again and again, until something fragile becomes something firm. You learn a new word, at first unfamiliar. Then you see it twice, 3 times. And suddenly it feels like it has always belonged to your tongue. Like an old friend returned from silence. That comfort you feel? That's the brain, finding home in pattern. New patterns, however, must always begin as discomfort. The mist is thick at first. There is no clear route, just intention, and a step, and another. Each study session, each practice scale, each time, you reframe a thought. These are small torches, lighting the fog, welcoming knowledge. Home by walking out to meet it. Sleep deepens this work. As you rest, your brain replays the day's footsteps. It chooses which paths to strengthen, which to gently forget. A quiet gardener, it prunes and waters, tending your landscapes without waking you. There is no part of the brain untouched by this process. Sensory, regions, emotional memory, logic gates. They all weave their information into the grand tapestry. And as larger networks take shape, small sparks become constellations. You wonder, perhaps, if you've done enough, if you've walked the path enough times to keep it. But the brain doesn't ask for perfection. It asks you to return. Day by day, thought by thought. Softly. And something else begins to happen with repeated trails walked. With care, learning becomes easier. Like a sled finding the grooves it carved in snow, your thoughts flow faster on familiar routes, almost smoothly, almost like grace. This is mastery, not as pride, but as ease and presence. Knowing without needing to grasp. Walking without needing to watch your feet. So now, as the mist begins to lift, you sense that some small part of you is grooved a little deeper. A truth is settling in. You are always building, not always shaping. Even in rest, the house of your inner knowing adds another room. But there's more to walking than direction, and more to learning than memory. The path leads somewhere. But where? And who does it lead you to become? Perhaps in the next Hush will explore that spark, that motivator behind it all, the quiet fire of wonder that keeps you moving forward. There is a quiet stirring in you now, not urgency, but something softer, like the first green shoot, breaking through winter soil. This is curiosity, and it has been with you since before you had words for it. When you were small, everything was. A question. Why is the sky that color? Where do thoughts come from? What makes a heart beat? You didn't need answers then. You needed the asking. The world was wide, and you were its gentle explorer. That explorer still lives in you. Quieter now, perhaps. More careful, but still there, waiting in the soft spaces between certainty. Curiosity is not just a feeling. It is a force. When you wonder about something, truly wonder, your brain transforms. Chemicals cascade. Neurons dance. Pathways that were sleeping suddenly wake. Dopamine flows like honey through your synapses. Not as reward, but as invitation. Come closer, it whispers. Look deeper, and your plastic brain, ever willing, reshapes itself to make room for what you're about to discover. This is not metaphor. This is measurable magic. When curiosity lights up inside you, Specific regions of your brain activate: the hippocampus storing potential memories, the caudate nucleus tracking patterns, the prefrontal cortex weaving meaning. All of them lean forward together, like flowers following the arc of sun dot. And here's the secret. A curious brain learns differently than a passive one. Information encountered through wonder sinks deeper, stays longer, connects wider. It's as if curiosity opens doors that facts alone cannot unlock. You've felt this before. When something catches your attention, really catches it, time seems to slow. Details become vivid. The ordinary world reveals its hidden textures. This is your brain in its most fertile state, ready to grow new understanding. But modern life often muffles wonder. Answers arrive too quickly. Mystery gets solved before it can breathe. The space between question and discovery, that sacred pause, shrinks smaller each day. Yet your brain still craves it, still needs that gentle tension of not knowing. For in that space, something profound happens. You become moldable again. Think of water finding its way through stone, not by force, but by patient questioning. Is there another way? Through? What lies beyond this barrier? Drop by drop, new channels form. Your neural pathways work the same way. When you approach life with questions rather than conclusions, your brain stays supple, adaptive, young. Curiosity is the antidote to rigidity, and it begins so simply. With noticing the way light falls differently at dusk. How certain words feel in your mouth, why some memories glow while others fade. Each small wondering is a seed that might grow into understanding. Children know this instinctively. They don't just see a puddle, they see a portal. They don't just hear thunder, they hear giants walking. Their brains, wildly plastic, wire themselves through wonder. Every question creates a new connection. Every mystery explored builds resilience. You can return to this. Not by becoming childish, but by remembering that not knowing is not emptiness, it's potential. When you let yourself be curious about something truly, openly curious, you activate the same neural networks that light up during play. Your brain enters a state of relaxed focus, where learning feels less like working, more like wandering a garden path. This is why passionate learners seem ageless. Their brains, fed on steady wonder, maintain flexibility that others lose. Each question asked is a gentle stretch, keeping neural pathways limber. But curiosity requires courage. To wonder is to admit you don't know. To ask is to reveal incompleteness. Yet, this vulnerability is precisely what allows growth. A brain that thinks it knows everything is nowhere left to expand. So you practice. Small wonderings at first. What makes this person smile? How does this flavor create that memory? Why does this piece of music move you? With each question, you're not just seeking information. You're maintaining your brain's ability to reshape. You're keeping the garden gates open. And something beautiful happens when curiosity becomes a habit. The world grows larger. Not overwhelming, but inviting. Each answered question reveals 10 more, like opening nested boxes of possibility. Your brain begins to expect discovery. To prepare for it, neural networks stay alert but calm, ready to incorporate new patterns. This is the opposite of stress. This is engagement. The neuroscientists have a term: curiosity state. When you enter it, your brain literally changes. It processes and stores information. Memory improves. Focus sharpens. Connections form between previously unrelated ideas. It's as if wonder is a key that unlocks hidden rooms in your mind. Rooms you didn't know existed, filled with possibilities you hadn't imagined. And the most wondrous part? Curiosity compounds. The more you practice wondering, the easier wondering becomes. Neural pathways dedicated to questioning grow stronger, faster, more elegant. You become someone who sees mysterious where others see mundane. who finds stories in silence, who knows that every ending is also a beginning of asking dot. This is how you train a brain just to learn, but to love learning, not just to know, but to keep knowing dot, to stay plastic, playful, possible dot. So tonight, as you rest, let one small question float through you. Don't chase the answer. Just hold the wondering dot, feel how it creates space in your thoughts. How it softly rewires rigidity into flow dot. Tomorrow, you might find an answer, or you might find a better question. Either way, you're growing. Either way, you're becoming. And perhaps that's the deepest curiosity of all. Not what will I learn, but who will I become through learning? The answer unfolds slowly, like dawn arriving, one photon at a time, one wonder at a time dot, until suddenly you're standing in full light. But light always casts shadows, and in those shadows, something else waits. The places where growth feels hard, where the brain must break before it builds dot, where curiosity meets its greatest teacher, difficulty itself. There is a quietness that comes after difficulty, like the hush following thunder, or the stillness of earth after rain. Dot, you know this quietness. You've lived it, right now. In this gentle moment, you might remember times when learning felt impossible. Your brain seemed to resist, when understanding slipped through your fingers like water. Dot, those moments felt like failure. But they were not. They were architecture. Your brain has a secret. It grows most not in ease, but in effort. Not in knowing, but in reaching toward knowing, in missing, and reaching again. Dot, think of a muscle. Dot, it doesn't strengthen from comfort. Dot, it strengthens from tiny tears. Microscopic breaks that heal back fuller. Your brain works the same mysterious way. When you struggle with something, when you fail and try, again, you're not breaking down, you're breaking through. This is the paradox of neuroplasticity. Difficulty is the sculptor. Dot, frustration is the chisel. Dot, and what emerges from that careful, carvinges a mind more capable than before. Scientists call it desirable difficulty. Your brain needs challenge, like lungs need air. Dot, too little, and it atrophies. Dot, too much, and it overwhelms. But just enough, that sweet spot of struggle, and magic happens. When you encounter something hard, truly hard, your neurons fire anew. Patterns. Dot, they reach for connections that don't yet exist. They fail. They try alternate routes. Dot, like water finding its way down an unknown mountain. They create new channels through repetition and persistence. This process feels uncomfortable. Dot, it should. Discomfort is your brain's way of saying, I'm building something here. Dot, remember learning to read? Those symbols meant nothing at first. Dot, your young brain had to break its understanding marks on paper, had to struggle through confusion, through sounding out, through getting it wrong 1,000 times. Dot, and then suddenly words, meaning flowing, like a river where before there was only drought. That struggle carved pathways that you still use today. Dot, every word you read now travels roads built by your earlier frustration. This is true for every skill you possess. Behind each competence lies a graveyard of attempts. Behind each mastery, a museum of mistakes. Your brain keeps no record of the failures, only the pathways they carved. When you struggle with something new, your brain releases specific chemicals. Dot, not just stress hormones, but growth factors, BDNF, NGF molecules that literally help neurons stretch and strengthen. Dot, struggle is fertilizer for neural growth. And here's what's beautiful. The brain doesn't just adapt to specific challenges. Dot, it learns how to learn from challenge itself. Each difficulty overcomes the next one slightly easier. Not because the problems get simpler, but because you get better at being uncomfortable. Dot, think of a tree in a storm. Dot, the wind bends it, sometimes nearly breaks it. But in response, the tree grows deeper roots, stronger wood, more flexible branches. Dot, it doesn't just survive the storm. It becomes shaped by it dot, made beautiful by it dot. Your neural networks do the same dance dot when old patterns prove insufficient. When familiar pathways lead nowhere, your brain doesn't give up dot, it innovates. This is why breakthroughs often follow. Breakdowns dot, why understanding arrives after confusion. Why sleeping on it works dot, your brain needs time to reorganize, to try new configurations, to let struggle transform into strength. But modern life often robs us of this gift. We quit at the first sign of difficulty dot, we seek easier paths, quicker answers. We mistake struggle for failure rather than recognizing it as growth in disguise. Yet your brain craves productive. Struggle dot, it's designed for it. Every human advancement, every personal evolution, every moment of aha, all born from the marriage of effort and neuroplasticity. The key is gentleness with yourself during these times of neural reconstruction. When learning feels hard, when progress seems invisible, when you want to give up, that's precisely when the magic is happening. Your neurons are reaching. New connections are forming. Pathways are being carved that will serve you for years to come. This is why experts often say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. They're not being cruel. They're acknowledging a fundamental truth about how brains build themselves. And there's something else, something profound about struggle and neuroplasticity. The pathways carved through difficulty are often stronger than those built in ease. When your brain has to work for understanding, when it has to create novel solutions, the resulting neural networks are more robust, more interconnected, more creative. Easy learning creates shallow roots. Difficult learning creates deep ones. This is why musicians practice scales until their fingers ache. Why mathematicians work problems that make their heads hurt. Why athletes train until their muscles scream. They're not punishing themselves. They're building neural architecture. Can only be constructed through challenge. And in your own life, every time you've pushed through difficulty, every time you've chosen to try again after failing, you've literally rebuilt your brain, made it more capable, more resilient, more. The struggles you faced haven't diminished you. They've sculpted you, each one a careful stroking the masterpiece of your becoming. So when you encounter difficulty, now you can meet it differently. Not as enemy, but as teacher. Not as breakdown, but as breakthrough waiting to happen. Your brain knows what to do with struggle. It's been doing it your whole life. Trust the process. Trust the discomfort. Trust that every neural pathway worth having was born from reaching beyond what came easily. And in those moments when learning feels impossible, when your brain feels stuck, remember, you're not failing. You're building. Cell by cell. Connection by connection. Struggle by sacred. Struggle. The forest knows how to rise after fire. The bone knows how to heal back stronger. And your brain knows how to transformifically into capacity, confusion into clarity, breaking into blooming. This is the gift hidden in every challenge. Not just what you learn, but who you become through the learning. Tonight, as you rest, your brain will process today's struggles, sort them, strengthen them, transform them into tomorrow's capabilities. You don't have to do anything. Just trust the ancient wisdom of neurons that know how to make meaning from difficulty. And perhaps wonder if struggle leads to growth, and growth requires repetition. What is the rhythm that makes it all possible? What is the secret pattern that turns effort into ease? The answer beats quietly, waiting in the space between attempts, in the pause between practice, in the rhythm of return. Listen, beneath your breathing, beneath the quiet thrum of your heartbeat, there is another rhythm. Older, deeper. It's the rhythm of becoming. Your brain doesn't learn in straight lines. It learns in circles, spirals, returns, like waves revisiting the shore. Each repetition leaves something behind, a trace, a memory, a slightly deeper groove. You felt this rhythm before, dot, in the way a song becomes familiar, dot, in how your hands learn to tie shoes without thinking, dot, and how certain paths through your neighborhood bokum, so known that your feet find them in darkness. This is repetition working its quiet magic, not the mindless kind that numbs, but the mindful kind that transforms. Each time you return to something, a skill, a thought, a practice, you're not just repeating. You're deepening, dot, like a river carving canyon walls. Patient and persistent, creating beauty through a return. Your neurons understand this language. They speak in patterns, not words. When you practice something, when you return to it again and again, you're having a conversation with your brain in its native tongue. This matters, you tell it with each repetition. Make this easier. Make this part of me, dot, and your brain, ever faithful, listens, dot, the first time you try something new. The neural signal is weak, like a deer path through tall grass, barely visible, easily lost. But return to it tomorrow, and the path becomes clearer. Return. Next week, and it's becoming a trail, dot, return for months. And it's a road your thoughts travel without conscious effort. This is myelination. Your brain wrapping frequently used pathways in a fatty sheath that makes signals faster, stronger, like insulating a wire or paving a dirt road. What once took effort begins to flow, dot. Musicians know this secret. They play scales not because scales are music, but because scales teach fingers to find music without searching. Each repetition is a conversation between intention and ability until they merge into one fluid motion. Athletes know it too. The 1,000th free throw looks like the first, but something invisible has changed. The body has memorized the arc, dot. The brain has encoded the rhythm. What required thought? No. Requires only trust. But here's what's beautiful. Repetition doesn't make you mechanical, dot. It makes you free. When basics become automatic, creativity has room to play, dot, when foundations are solid. Imagination can build, dot. Think of speaking your native language. You don't consider grammar as you talk. The rules live in your neurons now. Learned through countless repetitions, subtle, they became invisible scaffolding for your thoughts to dance upon. Is the paradox. Discipline creates spontaneity. Repetition enables innovation. The more deeply you know the rules, the more freely you can break them. Your brain craves this rhythm, dot. It's why children want the same bedtime story. Why you return to favorite songs. Why rituals feel comforting. Repetition isn't just learning. It's a form of neural nourishment. But not all repetition is equal. Mindless repetition builds habits. Mindful repetition builds mastery. The difference lies in attention, in being present with each return. When you practice with awareness, noticing subtle differences each time, your brain stays engaged. Now, it doesn't just strengthen existing pathways. It refines them, optimizes them, makes them more elegant, dot. This is why experts say, practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. Each repetition is an opportunity to encode not just action, but quality of action. Your brain remembers not just what you do, but how you do it. And timing matters. Your brain consolidates learning in the spaces between practice. This is why cramming fails while spaced repetition succeeds. Like bread that needs time to rise, neural pathways need time to strengthen. Sleep plays its part in this rhythm. Each night, your brain replays the day's repetitions, strengthening important patterns, letting unimportant ones fade. You wake slightly changed, slightly more capable of what you practiced yesterday, dot. This is why morning often brings clarity, dot. Why solutions appear after rest, dot. Why skills feel easier after time away. Your brain has been practicing while you dream, dot. The rhythm of learning is not a steady beat, but a wave pattern, effort and rest, practice and integration, repetition and reflection, dot. Understanding this rhythm changes how you approach learning. Instead of forcing, you flow. Instead of cramming, you cycle. Instead of perfection, you seek progression. Each return to practice is a gift to your future self. Repetition is a small deposit in the bank of capability. Compound interest for the brain. And here's the secret. Your brain doesn't count repetitions. It responds to consistency. Better to practice 5 minutes daily than an hour weekly. The rhythm matters more than the duration. This is how transformation happens. Not in dramatic moments, but in quiet returns. Not in single breakthroughs, but in patient persistence. Day by day, breath by breath, repetition by sacred repetition. You are always practicing something. If not consciously, then unconsciously. Your repeated thoughts become beliefs. Your repeated actions become character. Repeated choices become destiny. So the question becomes, what rhythm are you creating? What patterns are you reinforcing? What are you practicing without meaning to? The brain doesn't judge. It simply strengthens what you repeat. This is its gift and its challenge. Tonight, as you rest, consider the rhythms you've created, the patterns you've carved. The repetitions that have shaped you. Some you chose, some chose you. All have made their mark. But tomorrow brings new Chanchesto. Practice what you wish to become. To repeat what serves you. To create new rhythms that sing you toward growth. The brain is patient. It will wait for your returns. It will strengthen what you bring back. It will make easy what you make familiar. This is the Ash, secret language, not words, but patterns, not thoughts, but rhythms. Not perfection, but practice. And in that practice, something else emerges. The wisdom to know not just what to repeat, but what to release. There is a different kind of quiet now, not the quiet of waiting, but the quiet of release. Like autumn leaves, knowing when to fall. Your brain understands something profound. To grow, it must also let go. You might think of your mind as always adding more knowledge, more connections, more capacity. But the truth is gentler and stranger. Your brain is also a master of subtraction. It knows that space is as important as substance. Right now, as you rest, billions of synapses are quietly dissolving. Not as failure, but as wisdom. Your brain is choosing what to keep and what to release. Like a gardener who knows that pruning creates bloom. This process has a beautiful name, synaptic pruning. It sounds harsh, but it's actually tender, a careful curation of what matters most. When you were very young, your brain was wild with connections. Neurons reached in every direction, creating a jungle of possibility. But jungles, while rich, can be difficult to navigate. So your brain began its patient work of creating clearings. Every skill you didn't practice, every language you didn't hear, every pathway you didn't walk, these connections gently faded, not as loss, but as focus. Your brain was learning to specialize, to excel, to become uniquely you. This letting go continues throughout your life. Every night as you sleep, your brain reviews the day's experiences. What was important, it strengthened. What was trivial gets released. Like waves smoothing sand, erasing footprints that don't need to remain. You felt this process. The name of someone you met once, gone. The plot of a book you didn't love, faded. The worry that consumed you last year, now strangely distant. These aren't failures of memory. They're successes of prioritization. Your brain has limited resources, that it cannot maintain every connection, strengthen every pathway, remember every detail. So it chooses. And in choosing, it creates space for what truly serves you. Think of it like cleaning a room, not to make it empty, but to make it livable. Every released connection creates room for new growth. Every forgotten detail is important. Memories to shine brighter. This is why forgetting is not the opposite of learning. It's part of learning. The brain that remembers. Everything understands nothing. It's the spaces between memorias that give them meaning. But letting go isn't passive. Your brain actively chooses what to release based on what you use, what you value, what you return to. This is why habits are so hard to break. Every repetition tells your brain, keep this. This is important. Even when you consciously want to change, those well-worn pathways persist, strengthened by years of use. But here's the hope. Just as connections can be strengthened, they can also be weakened, not through fighting, but through gentle neglect. What you don't feed eventually fades. When you stop practicing a skill, those pathways begin to dim. When you stop reinforcing a thought pattern, those connections start to loosen. Your brain, always efficient, redirects resources to what you're actually using. This is the neuroscience of letting go, not a violent severing, but a gradual releasing. Like a path through the forest slowly reclaimed by growth. When feet find other ways to walk, and something beautiful happens in this process of release. New possibilities emerge. Where old patterns once dominated, fresh connections can form. Where rigid pathways once insisted, flexibility returns. This is why people can change, why old dogs can learn new tricks, why you're not condemned to remain who you were yesterday. Your brain's ability to let go is also its ability to become. The key is patience. Neural connections built over years didn't disappear overnight. But with gentle persistence, with conscious redirection, even the deepest grooves can soften. Think of water changing course. It doesn't fight the old riverbed. It simply finds a new path, and slowly, surely, the old channel dries. The landscape reshapes itself around the new flow. Your brain works the same way. You don't have to battle old patterns. You simply start building new ones. And as you feed the new, the old naturally fades. This is why therapists say you can't just stop a behavior. You have to replace it. Your brain needs somewhere to go, something to do with that energy. Create new pathways, and the old ones lose their power. There's profound kindness in this design. Your brain doesn't trap you in who you used to be. It offers constant chance for renewal, revision, rebirth. Every moment is an opportunity to strengthen what serves and release what doesn't. And the releasing isn't just about habits or skills or memories. It's also about identity. The stories you tell yourself, the limitations you've accepted, fears you've carried. These too are just neural patterns. And patterns can change. As you lie here in this gentle darkness. Your brain is already at work, sorting today's experiences, keeping what matters, releasing what doesn't. You don't have to manage this process. You just have to trust it. Trust that your brain knows how to hold and how to release. Trust that forgetting makes room for becoming. Trust that every ending is also a beginning. Tomorrow, you'll wake slightly different. Some connections stronger. Some fainter. All in service of who you're becoming. This is the dance of neuroplasticity. Not just building, but unbuilding. Not just remembering, but forgetting. Not just holding on, but letting go. And in this dance, something else becomes clear. The brain doesn't work alone. The body, too, has wisdom. The body, too, remembers and releases. The body, too, is part of becoming. Perhaps that's where we'll wander next into the conversation between muscle and memory, between movement and mind, between the brain that thinks and the body that knows. Feel your breath moving through you now. In and out, like a tide that never questions its rhythm. This simple motion, this rise and fall, is your body thinking, not with words, but with wisdom older than language itself. Your brain is not a floating island. It is deeply, intimately woven with every fiber of your being. Each muscle, each nerve, each cell participates in the symphony of your knowing. You don't just have a body. You think through it. Watch a child learning to walk. They don't read instructions. They feel their way forward, falling and rising, adjusting and adapting. Their brain and body are in conversation, a dialogue of balance and motion that creates understanding no book could teach. This conversation never ends. Right now, your body holds memory as you're conscious. Mind has forgotten the way you learned to ride a bicycle is in your muscles. The rhythm of swimming leaps in your shoulders. Your hands remember how to braid, to write, to comfort, even when your thoughts are elsewhere. This is embodied cognition, the recognition that thinking doesn't happen only in your skull. It happens in your fingertips. They find familiar keys, in your feet as they navigate a darkened hallway, in your spine as it straightens and confidence arrives. Movement creates neural pathways just as surely as study does. When you practice a physical skill, you're not just training muscles, you're building brain architecture. The motor cortex and the thinking cortex dance together. Inseparable. Athletes know this secret. They visualize their movements best. The brain can't quite tell the difference between imagined and actual motion. Both create similar neural firing patterns. Both build the pathways of capability. But it goes deeper than sports. When you walk, your brain changes. The bilateral movement, the rhythm of left, right, left, creates a state that enhances problem solving and creativity. This is why your best ideas often come while moving. Your ancestors knew this instinctively. They walked to think, danced to remember. They moved their bodies to move their minds. Modern life has forgotten this wisdom. But your neurons haven't. When you gesture while speaking, you're not just expressing, you're thinking. Those hand movements help your brain organize and retrieve information. Children who are allowed to gesture while learning mathematics endurance concepts more deeply. The hands teach the mind. Even your posture is a form of thought. Stand tall, and your brain receives signals of confidence and capability. Slouch, and it interprets defeat. Your body is constantly informing your mental state, and your mental state shapes your body in return. This is why practices like yoga and tai chi are so profound. They're not just physical exercise, they're neural, reorganizing through mindful movement. Each pose, each transition creates new connections between body awareness and mental clarity. Your breathing alone is a powerful neural modulator. Slow, deep breaths tell your brain, we are safe. We can think clearly. Rapid, shallow breaths signal danger. React, don't reflect. You can literally change your mental state by changing your breath. The body remembers trauma just as it remembers joy. Tensions held in shoulders, fears frozen in the belly, grief gripped in the chest. These are forms of memory too, and they can be released through conscious movement, through gentle attention to the wisdom of sensation. This is why dance is universal, why every culture moves to music. The body needs to express what words cannot contain. In movement, we process emotions, integrate experiences, create meaning without language. Your mirror neurons fire when you watch others move. You learn by observing, by internally mimicking, by feeling the ghost of motion in your own still body. This is how babies learn, how skills transfer, how empathy takes physical form. Even fine motor movements shape cognitive development. Children who play with blocks, who finger paint, who manipulate small objects develop spatial reasoning and mathematical thinking. The hands are teaching what will later seem abstract. As you age, movement becomes even more crucial. Physical activity doesn't just maintain muscle and bone. It maintains neural plasticity that encourages the birth of new neurons. It keeps the conversation lean, body and brain fluid and responsive. The simple act of walking increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which some call miracle grow for the brain. Movement literally fertilizes neural growth and connection. Your body is not transportation for your brain, that it is part of your thinking apparatus. Every stretch, every step, every conscious breath is a thought in physical form. Tonight, as you rest, notice the intelligence of your body, how it knows exactly how to settle. How it finds comfort without instruction. How it breathes without your management. This is embodied wisdom, the knowledge that lives below conscious thought. Tomorrow, when you move through your day, remember, you're not just going places. You're thinking with your whole self. Each gesture is a neural event. Each movement, a chance to learn. The artificial divide between mind and body dissolves. When you pay attention, you are one integrated system, learning through every cell, remembering in every fiber, becoming with every breath. And in this integration, something else becomes clear. Movement doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in relationship, with space, with others, with the feelings that move through us like weather through sky. Perhaps that's what waits next, the exploration of how emotion shape the very architecture of our learning, how feelings become the architects of memory itself. Close your eyes now. Feel the quiet weight of this moment. There is something happening within you, not just thoughts passing like clouds, but feelings coloring the sky. Those clouds move through. This inner weather, these subtle currents of emotion, are not separate from your thinking. They are the very soil in which thoughts grow. Your brain does not learn in neutral. It learns in color, in texture, in feeling. Every memory you carry is wrapped in emotion, like moss growing over stone. The stronger the feeling, the deeper the imprint. Think back to your most vivid memories. They pulse with emotional charge. Your first love, a moment of deep fear, an unexpected joy, a surprising loss. These weren't just events you observed. They were experiences you felt. What you feel, you remember. What you feel deeply, you remember forever. This is not coincidence. It's NEUROBIOLOGY. Emotions are not decorations on learning. They are the architects of it. When you experience something emotionally potent, your amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe, signals to your hippocampus. This matters. Keep this. Your brain responds by releasing neurochemical strengthen synaptic connections. Emotions literally tag experiences as important, enhancing their encoding in neural networks. Joy signals safety and opportunity. It releases dopamine. A neurotransmitter doesn't just feel good. It helps cement learning. When you're enjoying what you study, you're not just having a pleasant time. You're building stronger neural pathways. The brain learns better in states of positive emotion. Fear writes different lessons. Etches memories quickly, deeply, a protective mechanism from our ancestral past. Touch a hot stove once, and your brain remembers the pain vividly. The amygdala ensures you won't forget what hurts you. But chronic fear, constant anxiety, these overwhelm the system. They flood the brain with stress hormones that actually inhibit the hippocampus, making it harder to form new memories, to think clearly, to learn effectively. The brain that's always bracing is a brain that cannot grow. It's too busy surviving to focus on thriving. This is why emotional safety is not a luxury for learning. It's a necessity. Children who feel secure explore more freely. Adults who feel accepted take more intellectual risks. The brain learns best when it feels safe and curious rather than defensive. But it's not just about avoiding fear. It's about cultivating wonder. Awe, that feeling of vastness and transcendence, creates a unique neural state where the brain becomes more receptive to new patterns. Standing beneath stars, watching waves reshape shorelines, contemplating ideas that expand your understanding. These experiences of Allah literally change how your brain processes information. You've felt this before. That moment when something beautiful or profound stops. Your internal chatter, Time seems to pause. Boundaries. Soften. Your perception widens. In that state, new understanding flows. In like tide filling empty spaces on the shore. Even sadness has wisdom to offer. Studies show melancholy can enhance the attention to detail, empathy, fairness. The brain in gentle sorrow often sees connections it might otherwise miss. This doesn't mean seeking suffering, but it suggests that all emotions, even difficult ones, can become teachers if we let them. The key is emotional regulation, not suppression, but guidance, learning to surf the waves of feeling rather than being drowned by them. Your prefrontal cortex helps with this, creating space between stimulus and response, between feeling and action. This space is where wisdom grows. And here's what's beautiful. Emotional regulation is itself a skill, a neural pathway that strengthens with use. The more you practice noticing feelings without being consumed by them, the more easily you can use emotions as information rather than identity. As weather, not climate. This matters because what you feel while learning becomes part of what you learn. Study while anxious, and anxiety embeds itself in the material. Practice while calm and focused, and that state becomes accessible when you retrieve the information. Later. Emotions are not just responses to experiences. They become bound to the memories themselves. Think of music you loved in adolescence. Hearing it now might bring back not just memories, but the emotional texture of that earlier time. The feelings and the facts are stored together in neural networks. This is why context matters for learning, why the emotional atmosphere of a classroom affects information retention. Why traumatic experiences can make it difficult to learn new, unrelated material. The brain doesn't separate content from feeling. It integrates them. You can use this understanding to shape your own learning environment. Before studying something challenging, take a moment to center yourself, find calm, create safety. Your neural networks will form more effectively in that emotional landscape. Before sleep, review what you want to remember with a sense of gentle curiosity. The brain consolidates memories during rest, and the emotional tone you bring influences what gets prioritized. When teaching others, remember, you're not just conveying information, you're creating an emotional context that will become part of their learning. Kindness matters. Patience matters. The feeling of being seen and valued creates a neural environment where growth flourishes, and something profound happens. Learning is emotionally resonant. It changes not just what you know, but who you are. Information without emotion remains abstract, separate from self. Information with emotion becomes integrated into identity. It transforms not just the brain, but the being. This is why stories move us more than statistics. Why experiences teach more deeply than explanations. Why relationships shape learning more powerfully than raw information ever could. The emotional brain understands in ways the rational brain cannot. And perhaps the most powerful emotion for learning is a quiet one. Interest, not excitement. Not passion. Just gentle, sustained curiosity. A willingness to stay with something, to notice its textures and patterns, to give it time to reveal itself. This kind of interest creates a neural state of relaxed alertness, ideal for forming rich, complex connections. You felt this state before. Time softens its edges. Attention narrows and deepens. The boundary between you and what you're learning becomes permeable. This is flow, a state where emotion and cognition merge into something greater than either. The brain in flow learns differently, more holistically, more deeply. Information isn't just stored, it's woven into existing neural patterns. This is learning as transformation, not accumulation. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, notice the emotional landscape of your mind, the subtle tides of feeling shaping, the shore of your thoughts. Your brain is always learning, always encoding, always reshaping itself in response to these inner currents. Let gentleness be your guide. Let wonder be your compass. Let emotion be not something to overcome, but something to integrate, a wise architect helping build cathedral of your understanding. For in truth, you don't learn anything with your intellect alone. You learn with your whole being, with the tears that have shaped your valleys, with the joys that have built your mountains, with the fears that have taught you boundaries, with the loves that have shown you connection. Your emotional life is not separate from your intellectual one. They are the same river, flowing toward the same sea. And as you follow this river, something else becomes clear. You are not who you were yesterday. Each emotion, each learning, each neural connection newly formed or gently released, all of it reshapes you. Not your essence, perhaps, but your expression. Not your core, but your contours. This continuous becoming, this endless adaptation, is what awaits us next as we explore how the brain doesn't just learn new things, but learns to be new versions of itself. Take a breath. Feel the air fill you. Now release it. Feel yourself empty. In this simple exchange, this giving and receiving, you are already different than you were a moment ago. Cells have renewed. Thoughts have shifted. Neural pathways have strengthened or dimmed. You are not a fixed being, but a flowing one. Always changing. Always becoming. The self you call I is not a statue carved in stone. It is more like a river, constant in name only. The waters that flow through you, are not the same that flowed yesterday. And yet there is continuity. There is pattern. There is something you recognize as you. This is the paradox of the adaptive self. You are always changing, yet somehow the same. Always becoming, yet somehow familiar. The brain that makes this possibilize itself, a masterpiece of reinvention. Consider who you were at 5 years old. At 15. At 20-5. These weren't just different phases. They were different brains, different neural landscapes, different selves emerging from different patterns of connection. The child who feared the dark, the teenager who challenged authority, the adult who found their calling. Each version arose from specific wirings, specific strengths and sensitivities in your ever-adapting neural networks. Your memories create an illusion of continuity. They tell a story of me that seems unbroken. But this story edits itself constantly. Each time you recall a memory, you subtly change it, rewrite it, update it. To remember is to revise. This is not a flaw in design. It's an evolutionary gift, allowing you to integrate new understanding into old experience. To make meaning that evolves as you evolve. To become, without losing the thread off, who you've been. What you believe about yourself is not just a thought. It's architecture, neural pathways that fire together, that create a sense of this is me. Change those beliefs, and you literally change your brain. Change your brain, and you change what's possible. This is why small shifts in self-perception can lead to profound transformations. The student who begins to see themselves as capable. The artist who claims their voice. The wounded heart that dares to trust again. Each is rewiring the very definition of who they are and what they can become. The brain doesn't distinguish between identity and capability. What you repeatedly tell yourself you are, you become more capable of being. What you repeatedly tell yourself you aren't, you make neurologically less accessible. This is not magical thinking. It's the biology of belief. The stories you live in literally shape the neural landscape from which your choices emerge. Think of someone who learned a new language in adulthood. Not just the vocabulary and grammar, but the cadence, the expressions, the cultural nuances. They didn't just gain a skill, they gained access to a new self. One who thinks differently, feels differently, perhaps even dreams differently. This is neuroplasticity creating not just ability, but identity. Not just knowing, But being dot, you see it in those who recover from stroke or injury. Their brains literally remap, functions to different regions. Different neural territories take on new roles. The self adapts, finds new pathways home. Sometimes these adaptations are so profound that personality itself shifts. New selves emerge from new neural landscapes. Even without trauma or dramatic change, your brain is constantly adapting its self-map. The ideas you explore, the people you spend time with, the environments you inhabit, all of these shape not just what you know, but who you are. There is freedom in this. Understanding that you are not imprisoned by your past self. You are not defined by old neural patterns. The brain that thought those thoughts is not the brain you have today. You can choose differently now. You can become differently now. But there is also responsibility. What you feed grows. What you practice strengthens. The thoughts you return to, the emotions you cultivate, the actions you repeat, these are not just things you do. They are the person you are becoming. Think of your daily routines, the small choices that seem insignificant, the words you use when talking to yourself, the postures you adopt when facing challenge. These aren't just habits. They're self-creation in slow motion. Each time you respond with patience instead of reactivity, you're not just making a choice, you're becoming a more patient person. Each time you approach difficulty with curiosity instead of avoidance, you're not just learning something new, you're becoming someone new. This is the deepest work of neuroplasticity. Not just skill acquisition, but self-creation. Not just learning, but becoming. And it never ends. There is no final version of you. No completed self waiting at the finish line. Just this endless unfolding, this continuous adaptation, this river always flowing, always itself, yet never the same. The brain at 80 can still grow new connections, can still learn new skills. Can still become something it wasn't before. The capacity for reinvention doesn't diminish with age. Only the expectation of it does. Watched others transform. The shy person who found their voice. The rigid thinker who learned flexibility. The wounded heart that healed into wisdom. These weren't just behavioral changes. They were neural reorganizations, literal rewirings of the self. And you've experienced it yourself. Moments when you surprised yourself by feeling differently than expected, by understanding something previously opaque, by responding from a place AO didn't know lived in you. These are glimpses of neuroplasticity in action. New selves emerging from new neural configurations. The question isn't whether you'll change. Is inevitable, woven into your biology. The question is, how conscious will you beboot the direction of that change? How intentional about what you practice? How curious about who you're becoming? Tonight, as you rest, your brain continues its quiet renovation. Strengthening today's important connections, letting go of what doesn't serve, preparing you to walk as a subtly new version of yourself. This is not metaphor. It is the literal truth of your neuroplastic nature. You are always in process. Always between versions. Always becoming. And in this continuous adaptation, something else becomes clear. Rest is not separate from growth. Sleep is not pausing transformation. It is perhaps where the deepest transformation shanch without your conscious direction. As you drift toward dreams now, know that the mystery of your becoming continence in darkness, that the brain which creates your sense of self is still working, still adapting, still preparing you for who you might be tomorrow. The night gathers around you now. Darkness softens the edges of thought. Your breath deepens, slows. And soon, very soon, you will surrender to sleep. But sleep is not empty. Sleep is not absence. Sleep is not the opposite of growth. Is, perhaps, growth's most sacred chamber, when your conscious mind releases its grip, when your thoughts no longer chase themselves in circles, When your body finally settles into stillness, that's when the brain's deepest work begins. You think you're doing nothing when you sleep, but your brain is orchestrating miracles. It's not resting. It's reconstructing, not pausing. Processing. Not emptying. Integrating. While you dream, your brain is weaving. Taking threads of the day's experiences, fragments of conversation, glimpses of beauty, challenges faced, emotions felt, and stitching them into the tapestry of who you are. This is consolidation, the transformation of fragile, short-term memories into lasting neural architecture. What was fleeting becomes fixed. What was scattered becomes structured. What was experienced becomes understood. Sleep works in cycles, each with its own wisdom. Light sleep prepares the neural soil. Deep sleep plants the seeds of memory. REM sleep, where dreams unfold, waters these plantings with meaning and emotion. In deep sleep, your brain pulses with slow waves. These rhythmic oscillations wash through neural networks, transferring information from temporary storage in the hippocampus to more permanent residence throughout the cortex. This is how today's learning becomes tomorrow's knowing. But it's not just storage. It's synthesis. Your sleeping brain doesn't file memories like papers in a cabinet. It integrates them, finding patterns, making connections, revealing relationships invisible to your waking mind. This is why solutions often appear in morning light. Why clarity follows confusion after a night's rest. Why artists and scientists throughout history have credited sleep with their greatest insights. Your brain continues to work on problems long after you've stopped consciously trying. Dreams themselves are part of this process, not random firings, but meaningful RECOMBINATIONS. Your brain trying on new neural outfits, testing connections without the constraints of logic or expectation. In the safety of sleep, possibilities flourish that wakefulness might censor. And something else happens while you sleep, something only recently discovered. Your brain cleans itself, literally washes away cellular waste of it, accumulates during conscious hours. Glial cells, the brain support network, expand during sleep, creating channels where cerebrospinal fluid can flow more freely. This glymphatic system clears away toxins, including those associated with cognitive decline. Sleep is your brain's janitor, keeping neural pathways clear and functional. This is why chronic sleep deprivation impairs learning, memory, emotional regulation. Why a good night's rest feels like resurrection. Your brain needs this to clean, consolidate, connect. To turn experience into growth. Even a single night of quality sleep improves problem solving, creativity, emotional resilience. The neural benefits compound over time, building a brain more capable of adaptation and insight. Sleep also rebalances. During wakefulness, synapses strengthen as you learn and experience. But if this strengthening continued unchecked, your neural networks would become oversaturated, unable to distinguish signal from noise. Sleep provides synaptic homeostasis, selectively weakening less important connections while preserving and enhancing vital ones. This is neural wisdom at work. Not just building, but editing. Not just adding, but refining. The sculptor who knows that removing stone is as important as what remains. Children understand the importance of sleep instinctively. Their growing brains demand it. Up to 16 hours for newborns, who are building neural architecture at astonishing rates. The younger brain needs more. Sleep precisely because it's changing more rapidly. But your adult brain still requires this sacred time, still transforms through. Surrender. Still grows in darkness. The pace has slowed, perhaps, but the process continues. Different types of learning benefit from different sleep stages. Motor skills strengthen during non-REM sleep. Emotional memories integrate during REM. DECLARATIVE knowledge, facts and information, consolidates across the full sleep cycle. This is why cramming doesn't work for deep. Learning. Your brain needs that interval of sleep to transform information into understanding. The time between study sessions isn't wasted. It's essential. It's where fragile neural connections spoke, lasting neural pathways. Even naps hold power. A brief descent into sleep can clear working memory, improve problem solving, enhance creativity. Some of history's greatest minds, Einstein, Tesla, Edison, were devoted nappers. They understood intuitively. Neuroscience now confirms sleep is productive, not passive. As you drift towards slumber now, know that you're not shutting down. You're shifting into a different mode of cognition. Mode where time expands, where connections deepen, where learning becomes knowing. This surrender is not weakness. It's wisdom. The recognition that growth requires both effort and release. Both reaching and resting. Both doing and being. Tonight, as consciousness softens its grip, trust the ancient intelligence of your sleeping brain. Trust its ability to sift and sort, to strengthen what matters, to let go of what DOESN single quotes T. Trust that when morning comes, you'll be subtly, beautifully changed. This is how humans have always learned, through the rhythm of waking and sleeping, trying and surrendering, reaching and releasing. Your neuroplastic brain needs both light and darkness to fully flourish. So close your eyes now. Let go of effort. Let go of striving. Let go of control. Your brain knows what to do with this. Darkness. It's been doing it since your first night on Earth. The questions you've carried, the skills you've practiced, the challenges you've faced, all will be tended in sleep's sacred space. Not solved, perhaps, but softened. Not finished, but furthered. Not ended, but evolved. And when dawn returns, bringing you back to conscious thought, something will have shifted. Some neural reorganization will have occurred. Some new possibility will have opened. Some version of you slightly wiser, slightly more integrated, slightly more capable, will open its eyes to morning light. This is the final gift of neuroplasticity. The knowledge that growth continues, even when you can't see it happening, even when you've released all effort, even when you've surrendered to darkness, perhaps especially then.